My son died. His wife kicked me out of the house. But what happened next shocked her. And what I found after that shocked me more. My name is Evelyn Carter. I'm 68 years old. I live in a quiet neighborhood just outside Boston, Massachusetts. The kind of place where people still say good morning and believe nothing truly bad could happen close to home. For most of my life, I believed if you raised your child right, the world would protect them. I believed love was enough. I was wrong. What I'm about to tell you isn't a rumor, and it isn't fiction. It's the story of how I buried my only son, and discovered the truth he didn't live long enough to say out loud. Before I begin, tell me something. Where are you listening from? Put your city or country in the comments. Because this story isn't just mine. It's a warning, and warnings should travel. And if you stay until the end, you'll understand why I need you to hear this. That's why I ask you to subscribe, not for me, but because some stories are meant to be remembered. Before I tell you what happened to my son, I need to tell you where I failed. I saw him getting weaker, and I let him convince me he was fine. Please don't do that. Don't ignore your gut. Don't stay polite. Don't wait. If something feels off with the people you love, speak up. Push harder. Because I did everything too late, and I live with that every day. I remember that evening clearly because everything after it feels like borrowed time. I was sitting alone in my lounge, the lamp turned on, the rest of the house quiet. Outside, the sky was darkening, that soft blue that comes before night fully settles in. I had a blanket over my legs and the television playing low, just noise to keep the silence away. I was thinking about my son Daniel. I always did around that hour. Then my phone rang. I knew something was wrong before I even answered it. "Hello," I said. "Mrs. Evelyn Carter?" a man asked. His voice was calm, professional. "This is City General Hospital. Your son Daniel Carter has been admitted. We need you to come in immediately." My heart dropped so hard it felt like it hit the floor. "Admitted?" I asked. "Why? What happened to my son, Daniel? I spoke to him yesterday. He didn't say anything was wrong." "I'm sorry, ma'am," the man replied. "I don't have those details. Please come as soon as you can." The call ended. I sat there staring at the phone, my hands shaking. "No," I whispered. "God, please no. Not Daniel." Tears came fast, without warning. I stood up too quickly and had to grab the chair to keep from falling. I couldn't stop crying as I put on my coat. I dropped my keys twice because my fingers wouldn't listen to me. "Please God," I said out loud. "Please save my child." I don't remember the roads. I remember the praying. Every red light felt like torture. Every second felt stolen. "God, please," I kept saying, my voice breaking as tears blurred the windshield. "Daniel is a good son. He takes care of everyone. Please don't take him from me. I'm not ready." I cried the whole way, begging, bargaining, promising anything I could think of. "Just let me see him alive," I whispered. "Just let him live." Hospitals at night feel cruel. Too bright. Too quiet. I saw Rachel sitting near the ICU doors when I arrived. She was scrolling on her phone, calm, composed, like she was waiting for an appointment, not living a nightmare. "Rachel," I said, my voice shaking as I rushed toward her. "What happened to Daniel? Why didn't you call me?" She looked up slowly. "They brought him in earlier," Rachel said. "The doctors are taking care of it." "That's not an answer," I said, crying openly now. "What's wrong with my son, Rachel? He was fine yesterday." "You're getting yourself upset," she replied. I stared at her in disbelief. "He's my son," I said. "Of course I'm upset." After a moment she sighed and stood up. "You can see Daniel," she said. "Just don't stress him out." The moment I saw Daniel lying there, I broke. "Oh God," I cried, rushing to his bedside. "Oh God, Danny." He looked so thin, so pale. Tubes everywhere. Machines breathing for him. I took his hand and started crying hard, my shoulders shaking. "I'm here, Daniel," I said through tears. "I came as fast as I could. Why didn't you tell me you were sick? You always tell me everything." His eyes opened slowly. "Mom," Daniel whispered. That one word destroyed me. "I'm here, baby," I said, crying harder. "Don't talk. Just rest. I've got you." He squeezed my hand weakly. "No," he said. "Mom, I need to tell you something." You need to listen to me. I'm listening, I said, leaning closer, tears falling onto the sheets. Tell me, Daniel. I'm right here. I need you to. The door opened. Daniel, Rachel said firmly, stepping into the room. The doctor said you're not supposed to talk. He's trying to say something. I said, my voice desperate. Please, Rachel. Let him speak. You're upsetting him, she replied. Daniel's breathing grew uneven. Mom, he said again, panic creeping into his voice. If anything happens to me. The machine started beeping faster. My heart stopped. What's happening? I cried. Please, someone help my son. Nurses rushed in. A doctor followed. Someone gently pulled me away from the bed. No, I sobbed. Please. He was just talking to me. He was fine. The beeping stopped. The line on the screen went straight. I screamed. No. No, please. I cried. That's my son. That's Daniel. You can't take him from me. The doctor checked again, then looked at the clock. I'm sorry, Mrs. Carter, he said softly. I collapsed against the bed, crying uncontrollably. No, I kept saying. I prayed. I begged. You can't take my child. I held Daniel's arm and pressed my face against it, rocking like I used to when he was small. I'm your mother, I whispered. I'm here. I'm right here. But he was already gone, and I was left holding the silence he left behind. That night, after everyone left and the house went quiet, I realized something that wouldn't let me sleep. No one had explained how my son died. Not clearly. Not fully. I kept hearing his voice in my head, strained, urgent. Mom, I need to tell you something. And for the first time since I lost him, I wondered if Daniel hadn't been saying goodbye at all, but trying to warn me. I didn't want to go. That's the truth I don't say out loud. I sat in my car for a long time before getting out, my hands resting uselessly in my lap, staring at the building where they were about to say goodbye to my son like it was an appointment that could be finished and forgotten. When I finally stepped inside, my legs felt weak, like they didn't recognize where they had brought me. The place was full of people, but it was quiet in that unnatural way grief creates. Soft murmurs. Slow footsteps. The smell of flowers so strong it made my head ache. The arrangements stopped me cold. They were perfect. Too perfect. Daniel's favorite white lilies lined the aisle. Blue and gray ribbons, the colors he always wore. The ones he said made him look less tired. Soft instrumental music played in the background, something calm, something he used to put on when he worked late at night. I remember thinking someone knew him very well. And then I remembered I did. I walked forward slowly, every step heavier than the last, until I saw the coffin. That was when it hit me. Not at the hospital. Not in the car. Not even when they told me the time of death. It hit me there. I stopped breathing for a moment. My chest tightened so hard I thought I might fall. Daniel was inside. My boy. I moved closer, my hands shaking, my eyes already burning. He looked like he was sleeping. Peaceful. Too peaceful. Like he'd just closed his eyes after a long day and forgotten to wake up. Oh, Danny, I whispered. I reached out and touched his hand. Cold. So cold. That's not right, I said quietly. You hate the cold. My knees buckled, and I had to grip the edge of the coffin to steady myself. This was real. This wasn't a hospital room. This wasn't a bad dream. This was goodbye. Behind me I heard footsteps. Evelyn, Rachel said. I turned and looked at her. She wasn't crying. Her back was straight. Her face calm. Not hollow, controlled. Like she was attending a formal event, not burying her husband. There was really no need for you to come here, she said. You're not well. This could have been handled without upsetting you. For a moment I just stared at her, not understanding the words. Not come. I repeated slowly. Rachel, what are you saying? She exhaled, clearly irritated. I mean, this is already difficult. You being here just makes it harder. People are watching. They talk. Something inside me cracked. He's my son, I said, my voice shaking. I carried him for 9 months. I raised him. You don't get to tell me where I belong today. Before she could respond, another voice cut in. That's enough. I turned to see Margaret Collins, Rachel's mother, stepping toward us. She was dressed in black, pearls around her neck, expression tight with disapproval. This is not the time or place for a scene, Margaret said firmly. People are here to pay their respects. I looked at her, my hand still resting on my son's coffin. A scene, I said softly. You think a mother standing beside her dead child is a scene? Margaret's lips pressed together. Evelyn, please. Emotions are high. Let's be dignified. I laughed then. Not because anything was funny, but because something in me finally understood. Dignified, I said. Is that what this is? Because my son is lying in a box, and his wife hasn't shed a single tear, and you're worried about appearances. Rachel's eyes flashed. That's unfair. What's unfair? I said, my voice breaking as tears finally spilled. Is that he's gone and I didn't even get to hear what he was trying to tell me. The room had gone very quiet. Margaret glanced around nervously. Lower your voice, she whispered. This is not appropriate. I turned back to Daniel. I'm sorry, I whispered to him. I'm so sorry I couldn't protect you. I stayed there, one hand on the coffin, crying silently, while people watched from a distance. Unsure, uncomfortable, pretending not to notice that something was deeply wrong. Rachel never touched him. Not once. After the funeral, everyone told me the hardest part was over. They were wrong. The hardest part was standing there, watching people walk away, and realizing how little anyone wanted to talk about how my son died. How quickly the questions were buried along with him. As I left the cemetery, I looked back once. Not at the grave but at the people. And for the first time I felt it. Something about Daniel's death wasn't finished with me yet. After the funeral, everyone kept telling me to go home. They said it gently like they were doing me a favor. But none of them understood that my home felt empty now. The only place that still held my son was the house he used to open the door for me, smiling, saying, "You're early, Mom. Come in." So I drove there. The driveway was quiet when I arrived. No cars. No voices. No sign that this place had just lost its owner. I sat in my car longer than I should have, my hands resting on the steering wheel, my chest tight. This is still where you belong, I told myself. He would have wanted you here. When I knocked, no one answered. That should have been my first warning. I opened the door with the spare key Daniel insisted I keep. The same key he once laughed about, saying, "Just in case I forget to answer my own door." Inside, the house felt wrong. Clean but not warm. Silent but not peaceful. The photos were gone. The small things Daniel loved, the books, the little souvenirs he collected, had vanished. It felt less like a home and more like a space someone was preparing to sell. I walked in slowly, touching the back of the couch like I needed to prove it was real. "Daniel," I whispered, knowing he wouldn't answer. Then I heard Rachel's voice. "What are you doing here?" She stood near the hallway, arms crossed, her expression sharp. No smile. No polite greeting. No welcome, the way she used to say it when Daniel was alive. That was the first time. "I came to see him," I said quietly. "I needed to feel close to my son." She scoffed. "This isn't a memorial, Evelyn." I stared at her, stunned. "Every time I came here before, you welcomed me. You asked if I'd eaten. You told me Daniel would be happy to see me." "That was before," Rachel said flatly. "Before what?" "Before this became my house." The words landed hard. "I'm still his mother," I said, my voice shaking. "That didn't change when he died." Rachel took a step closer. "What changed is ownership. And I don't appreciate you just letting yourself in." I held up the key in my hand. "Daniel gave me this." "And Daniel is gone," she snapped. "You don't need it anymore." Something inside me broke then. "This is the first time you've ever asked me why I'm here," I said, tears burning my eyes. "Do you know how cruel that sounds?" She didn't soften. "You shouldn't have come," Rachel said. "And you shouldn't come again." I felt my throat tighten. "Excuse me. This is my house now," she repeated. "You coming here, touching his things, walking through rooms that don't belong to you anymore. It's inappropriate." "Inappropriate," I whispered. I sat in this kitchen waiting for him to come home late at night. I watched him fall asleep on that couch. I folded his laundry when he was too tired to stand. She cut me off. "That doesn't matter anymore." I took a step back, my legs trembling. "So that's it?" I asked. "You erase him and you erase me with him?" Rachel's voice was sharp. I'm asking you to leave, Evelyn. And I'm asking you not to come back. There it was. The sentence that pushed me out of my son's life for the second time. I looked around the house one last time, my heart aching with every breath. I hope you understand something, I said softly. A house doesn't become yours just because someone dies inside it. She didn't respond. I walked to the door, my hand shaking as I placed the key on the table. This used to be where my son lived, I said. Now it's just a building. When I stepped outside, the door closed behind me, louder than it ever had before. And that's when I realized I hadn't just lost my son, I had been removed. When I left Daniel's house that day, I understood something I hadn't before. Grief wasn't the reason I'd been pushed out. I sat in my car with the key still warm in my hand and realized Rachel hadn't been protecting herself from pain. She had been protecting something else. And whatever it was, it had nothing to do with love. The lawyer's office felt stiff and uncomfortable, like no one was supposed to breathe too loud. Beige walls. A long oak table. A clock ticking like it was in a hurry to get this over with. Rachel was already there when I walked in. Sitting straight. Perfect posture. Her face tight and blank like she'd practiced it. Her mother, Margaret Collins, sat beside her, back rigid. Her father, Robert Collins, leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, looking worn down. The second Rachel saw me, her eyes narrowed. What the hell is she doing here? She said. Why is she in this meeting? Before I could say a word, the lawyer stood. Mrs. Carter, he said to me calmly, please have a seat. Rachel snapped her head toward him. I'm talking to you. This is my husband's will. The lawyer didn't flinch. My name is Jonathan Pierce. I was Daniel Carter's attorney. He folded his hands on the table. I called Mrs. Evelyn Carter because it was Daniel's direct instruction that his mother be present when this will was read. Rachel let out a sharp laugh. That's ridiculous. Robert leaned toward her. Rachel, he said quietly, let's just get through this. This won't take long. I sat down, my hands shaking in my lap. I still didn't know why I was there, and honestly I felt like I didn't belong anywhere anymore. Mr. Pierce opened the folder. This is the final will and testament of Daniel Carter, he said. Signed 5 months before his death. Rachel shifted, her confidence creeping back. To my wife, Rachel Carter, he read. I leave the marital residence, the vehicle registered in her name, and the funds currently held in our joint account. Rachel nodded like, yeah, obviously. Then she frowned. She waited. This can't be it, she said impatiently. So what about the rest? His company? The other properties? You're telling me that's all I get? Mr. Pierce raised his eyes. There's more. Let me finish. Rachel crossed her arms. Then let's not drag this out. He continued. To my mother, Evelyn Carter, I leave full ownership of my company, including all assets and controlling interest. The air in the room just stopped. Mr. Pierce didn't pause. I also leave to her all remaining properties and accounts held solely in my name. Rachel shot up from her chair. No. That's bullshit, she shouted. He would never do this. He can't do this to me. Margaret stood as well. This has to be some kind of mistake. Mr. Pierce's voice stayed calm. Daniel personally instructed me to revise his will 5 months ago. This document is valid, signed, and witnessed. Rachel turned on me like a switch flipped. You did this, she yelled. You got in his head. You played him. You manipulated him into screwing me over. I was stunned. I didn't even know this will existed, I said. I swear to you, Rachel, I had no idea. Don't lie to me, she screamed. You poisoned him against me. Something inside me snapped into place. I stood up slowly. That's enough, I said. I lost my son. I didn't steal your husband's decisions. And if Daniel made this choice, maybe you should ask yourself why. Robert rubbed his forehead. Disappointment written all over his face. Rachel, he said quietly, this isn't a good look. Calm down. Margaret looked away, lips pressed tight. Rachel grabbed her bag. "This isn't over," she snapped. She stormed out. Her parents followed, the silence between them louder than shouting. I stayed behind. "I'm sorry for the outburst," I said to Mr. Pierce. "I didn't mean for any of this." He nodded. "Daniel wanted to make sure you were taken care of." I thanked him and left. I walked in confused, grieving, and powerless. I walked out holding something I never asked for and didn't yet understand. It was 7:35 p.m. when I realized I'd been staring at the same photograph for too long. I was sitting in my lounge, the lamp beside me casting a warm, tired glow. Daniel's old photo album rested on my lap, the corners worn soft from years of being opened and closed. I turned a page slowly, my fingers lingering on his smile, the one he had as a teenager, half confident, half awkward. My face felt heavy, sad. "Hello. You always look so happy," I whispered. "So sure of your life." That's when the thought came back again, the one I'd been trying to push away. The will. I closed the album slightly, my eyes unfocused. "Why would you do that, Daniel?" I murmured. "You loved Rachel. You trusted her. Why would you leave everything to me?" It didn't make sense. None of it did. I was still sitting there, lost in my thoughts, when my phone rang. The sound made me jump. I looked at the screen. Jonathan Pierce. My stomach dropped. For a second, I just stared at it, my heart starting to race. Why would he be calling me now? I whispered. My hand trembled as I picked up the phone. "Hello," I said cautiously. "Mrs. Carter," the voice said, calm and familiar. "This is Jonathan Pierce, Daniel's attorney." "Yes," I replied quickly. "Is something wrong?" "No," he said. "Nothing urgent. But I do need to speak with you privately." Privately. The word sent a chill through me. "I was hoping we could meet tomorrow morning," he continued. "Somewhere public. A cafe. Around 10. My grip tightened on the phone. "Why?" I asked. "Is this about the will?" There was a brief pause. "It's about Daniel," he said carefully. "And something he asked me to give you." My heart started pounding. "Please keep this between us," he added. "It's important that no one else knows about this meeting." I swallowed hard. "All right. I'll text you the location," he said. "See you tomorrow." The call ended. I sat there staring at the dark screen. "Keep it secret?" I muttered. Why would this need to be a secret? My mind started spinning. 100 questions. None with answers. By the time I lay down, I was exhausted from thinking, and afraid of what tomorrow might bring. Somewhere between worry and prayer, I fell asleep. The cafe was small and quiet, the kind of place where people whispered without realizing it. I arrived at 10 a.m. sharp, my nerves tight, my hands cold. I scanned the room and spotted Mr. Pierce sitting alone at a corner table, a cup of coffee in front of him, his briefcase resting by his chair. He looked up and smiled politely. "Mrs. Carter," he said, standing. "Thank you for coming." "Thank you for calling," I replied, trying to sound calm. We sat down. "Can I get you some coffee?" he asked. "No, thank you," I said softly. "I'd rather know why you wanted to see me." He nodded. "Fair enough. Just take a breath first. There's no rush." He reached into his briefcase and pulled out a small envelope. "Daniel asked me to give you this," he said, sliding it across the table. Inside was a key. I picked it up with trembling fingers. "What is this?" I asked, my voice barely steady. "It's the key to a private locker Daniel maintained," he explained. "He didn't tell me what was inside. Only that I was to give it to you exactly 3 days after the will was read." My throat tightened. "Why?" I asked. "Why all this secrecy?" He shook his head. "He didn't say. Only that you should know about it, and no one else." I closed my hand around the key. "Please," he said firmly but kindly, "don't tell anyone about this. Not Rachel. Not her parents. Not yet. I looked up at him, scared and confused. What did my son leave behind? I asked. He met my eyes. That's something only you can find out. He stood, nodded once and said, "Take care of yourself, Mrs. Carter." Then he walked out. I stayed there, staring at the key in my palm. "What were you trying to tell me, Daniel?" I whispered. And for the first time since his death, I felt something new rise through the grief. Fear. I walked into that cafe looking for answers. I walked out carrying something I wasn't ready to hold. That cafe meeting wasn't the end of the story. It was the moment my son spoke again. I went to the bank the very next morning. I didn't sleep much that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt the weight of that key in my palm. Cold, small, and heavy with whatever my son hadn't lived long enough to say. The building stood in front of me like it always had. First National Trust Bank. Tall glass windows. Polished stone. People coming and going like it was just another Tuesday. I stood on the sidewalk for a long moment, staring up at it, my chest tight. "Whatever you left me in there, Daniel," I whispered. "I'm ready now." I took a deep breath and walked inside. The air smelled like paper and polished wood. Quiet. Controlled. Safe. The kind of place where secrets sit quietly behind steel doors. I approached the counter, my hands clutching my purse tighter than necessary. "I need some help," I said, my voice low but steady. Before the teller could respond, a man in a dark suit stepped forward. "Mrs. Carter?" I looked up, surprised. "Yes." He offered a gentle smile. "I'm Thomas Reynolds, the branch manager. Please come with me." Something in his tone told me this wasn't routine. He led me into his office and gestured for me to sit. "First," he said, closing the door softly, "I want to say how sorry I am about your son, Daniel. He was a respected client here. A good man." "Thank you," I said, my voice cracking despite my effort. He nodded, then continued, "You're here about the locker." I froze. "You already know?" "Yes," he said carefully. "Your son gave us instructions. He told us that if he ever couldn't come himself, his mother would." My heart skipped. "He planned this?" I asked. "Before anything happened?" Mr. Reynolds sighed. "Yes, ma'am." I stared at the desk, my hands shaking. "He knew," I whispered. He knew something wasn't right. Without another word, he stood. "Please follow me." The hallway was cool and quiet. Rows of lockers lined the walls, identical, anonymous. Mr. Reynolds stopped in front of one and stepped aside. "I'll give you privacy," he said. "Take all the time you need." When he left, the silence pressed in. I pulled the key from my bag. My hands trembled so badly I had to steady myself against the wall. "Okay," I whispered. "I'm here." The lock clicked open. Inside was a wooden box. Simple. Unmarked. I lifted it out slowly and set it on the small table nearby. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it in my ears. "Please don't let this break me," I murmured. I opened the box. Inside were three things. A folded letter. A small flash drive. A sealed envelope labeled medical reports. I picked up the letter first. "Mom, if you're reading this, it means I'm gone." I hate that sentence, but I don't know how else to say it. I need you to know something I was too late to say out loud. I believe Rachel, and members of her family, have been poisoning me. I didn't want to believe it. I kept telling myself I was wrong. By the time I knew I wasn't, it was already too late. In this box are my medical reports and a video. They can deny this letter. They can call you emotional. But they can't erase what's on that recording. If I'm wrong, burn this. If I'm right, you'll know what to do. And I pray you won't. Don't cry, Mom. Be strong. Be stronger than I was. I need you to get me justice. I trust you. Daniel." The letter slipped from my fingers. I covered my mouth as a sob ripped out of me. "Oh God," I cried. "I'm so sorry. I should have protected you. I should have seen it." I clutched the paper to my chest, rocking slightly, tears soaking the words. So this was it, I whispered through sobs. This was what you were trying to tell me. After a long moment, I wiped my face with shaking hands. I picked up the flash drive. There's proof, I said quietly. You were smart. You didn't leave this to chance. I took a deep breath. I will do anything, I said aloud, my voice steadying. You trusted me, and I won't let you down. Whoever did this to you, whoever thought they could get away with it, they're going to pay. I placed everything back in the box carefully. When I closed it, I felt something settle inside me. Grief was still there. I didn't watch the video at the bank. I couldn't. I went straight home, locked the door behind me, and drew the curtains like I was hiding from the world. The house felt too quiet, like it was holding its breath with me. I sat in the lounge, Daniel's wooden box on the coffee table, my hands resting on my knees like I needed permission to touch anything. Okay, I whispered. I'm here. I'm listening. I plugged the flash drive into my laptop. The screen flickered, and then there he was. Daniel. Alive. Sitting in what looked like his study. He looked thinner than I remembered, darker under the eyes, but still my boy. He gave a tired smile that broke my heart clean in half. Hey Mom, he said softly. If you're watching this, then yeah. I didn't make it. My breath caught. I'm not making this video to scare you, he continued. And I'm definitely not making it because I'm sure about everything. I need you to understand that part first. He leaned forward, rubbing his face like he used to when he was stressed. For months I've been sick. Weak. Dizzy. Losing weight for no damn reason. Doctors kept telling me it was stress, burnout, lifestyle stuff. I wanted to believe them. He swallowed hard. But something felt off. Like my body was fighting something I couldn't see. I pressed my hand to my mouth, tears already streaming down my face. I had my blood tested privately, he said. More than once. And what they found, it wasn't accidental. He shook his head slowly. I don't know who did this to me. I swear to God, Mom, I don't have proof of who. Just proof that someone's been poisoning me. Small doses. Over time. Slow enough to look natural. Smart enough to hide. My chest tightened until it hurt. If you're angry, don't be, he said gently. I figured it out too late. That's on me. He looked straight into the camera then. But if I'm right, if this wasn't some freak thing, I need you to be careful. Don't trust anyone just because they look calm. People who hurt you don't always look evil. His voice cracked. I'm sorry I couldn't protect you from this, Mom. I'm sorry I didn't say it out loud. The screen went black. I screamed. Not loud, broken. I fell forward, sobbing, clutching the laptop like it might bring him back. I'm so sorry, I cried. I should have known. I should have seen you fading. I saw you getting weaker. And I didn't stop it. God, I'm so sorry, baby. I'm so damn sorry. You kept telling me you were fine, and I believed you because I wanted to. I knew she wasn't warm. I knew something was wrong. And I still did nothing. I should have protected you. I'm sorry, son. I'm so sorry. After a long time, my tears slowed. I wiped my face. And something inside me changed. If you didn't know who did this, I whispered, then I'll find out. What my son said next didn't just explain his death. It pointed to who caused it. That was the moment I stopped mourning my son and started protecting his truth. I didn't call the police. Not yet. Daniel had been clear, this was slow, deliberate, hidden. Going in loud would spook whoever did it. So I started small. Quiet. I pulled out the medical reports from the box and read every word, even the ones I barely understood. Dates, symptoms, progression. Everything pointed to long-term exposure. This wasn't random, I muttered. This was planned. I thought about Daniel's routine. Who cooked for him? Who handled his meals? Who had access to his home every day? My hands clenched. I drove past his house, Didn't stop, just watched from the car. Lights on. Curtains drawn. Life moving forward like nothing had happened. That didn't take long, I said bitterly. I went to his pharmacy next. Not asking questions, just listening. Old habits. Patterns. Names. He always picked up his vitamins himself, the pharmacist said casually. Switched brands a few months back. Said his wife recommended it. My heart skipped. Did you keep the old bottles? I asked. Sorry, she replied. Expired inventory gets tossed. Of course it did. That night I sat alone and made a list. Not suspects. Excess. Who had been close enough to poison my son slowly, without raising alarms. I stared at the names. Rachel. Margaret. Robert. This wasn't an accident, I said aloud. And it wasn't love. I closed the notebook and took a steady breath. I'm not coming for revenge, I whispered. I'm coming for the truth. And whoever was responsible, they had no idea what kind of woman they just awakened. I didn't go looking for proof. Not that day. That day I went looking for closure, or whatever cheap version of it I could still afford. I found myself back at Daniel's house again, parked across the street, engine off, just watching. I told myself I wasn't going in, that I was just remembering. Get it together, Evelyn, I muttered. You're not a trespasser. You're a mother. I waited until Rachel's car was gone. Then I walked up to the front door and knocked. No answer. I used the spare key Daniel never asked back for, the one Rachel had demanded I return. I hadn't. The door opened with the same quiet click. Inside, the house still felt stripped. Cold. Like someone had vacuumed the soul right out of it. I'm not staying long, I whispered. Just 5 minutes. I went straight to the kitchen. That's where Daniel spent his mornings. Coffee. Vitamins. That stupid protein shake he swore would fix everything. Most of the cabinets were empty now. But not all of them. In the back of the pantry, pushed behind cleaning supplies, I noticed a small cardboard box. No label. No branding. That stopped me. Why hide vitamins? I whispered. I pulled it out slowly. Inside were empty supplement bottles. Different brands. Some half-crushed. Some rinsed out. My stomach tightened. Daniel was methodical. He didn't switch brands like socks. I picked one up and turned it over. The label was peeling like someone had tried to remove it and failed. My hand started shaking. This means something, I told myself. Don't jump. Think. I opened my phone and snapped pictures of every bottle. Then I heard a voice. What the hell are you doing in my house? I nearly dropped everything. Rachel stood in the doorway, eyes sharp, face tight with fury. I'm not stealing anything, I said quickly. I came to get something that belongs to me. She laughed, but it wasn't funny. You really don't know when to stop, do you? I held up the bottle. Daniel changed his supplements. Did you suggest this brand? Her eyes flickered just for a second. That's none of your business, she snapped. You need to leave. Now. Why hide them? I asked. Why not throw them away? She stepped closer. Because I didn't want reminders of him everywhere. Is that a crime now? Her voice was steady. Too steady. I looked at her carefully. Rachel, I said quietly, did you ever notice him getting sick? She scoffed. He was always tired. Always stressed. You know how he was. Yes, I said. But stress doesn't poison blood. Her jaw tightened. You're crossing a line, she warned. Then why are you scared? I asked softly. That did it. Get out, she shouted. Right now. Before I call the cops. I didn't argue. I walked past her calmly, my heart pounding so loud I thought she could hear it. Outside, my hand shook as I sat in the car. That wasn't proof, I said aloud. But it wasn't nothing either. That night, I did something Daniel would have appreciated. I didn't accuse. I researched. I compared the brands in my photos with the dates on his medical reports. Most lined up. But not perfectly. Someone had been careful. Too careful. Which meant they were still ahead of me. I closed my notebook slowly. All right, I whispered. You don't know I'm looking yet. That's good. I leaned back, exhausted, scared, and furious all at once. This wasn't a smoking gun. It was a whisper. And whispers, I was learning, were harder to kill. That's when I realized this wasn't just about my son's death. Someone had worked very hard to make sure I never found this. I didn't plan to run into Margaret Collins. That's the thing about truth. It doesn't show up when you're ready. It shows up when you're tired, distracted, and just trying to get through the damn day. I was at Lakeside Market, the kind of place where people pretend they're fine while buying overpriced groceries they don't need. I stood in line, staring at nothing, my mind somewhere else entirely. That's when I heard her voice. Oh, this brand again? Margaret said sharply. I swear, Rachel goes through these like candy. I turned slowly. Margaret stood 2 people ahead of me, holding a basket. Inside it, clear as day, was a familiar-looking supplement bottle. My stomach tightened. I didn't rush. I didn't react. I just waited. At the checkout, her card declined once. She huffed. Seriously? Rachel must have moved money again. The cashier glanced up awkwardly. You want to try another card? Margaret waved her hand. Use the joint account. The one we opened months ago. Months. That word hit me like a punch. Outside, I caught up to her near the parking lot. Margaret, I said, forcing my voice to stay calm. Excuse me. She turned surprised. Evelyn. Awkward didn't even begin to cover it. I couldn't help but notice the supplements, I said carefully. Daniel used to take something similar. Margaret laughed lightly. Oh, those? Rachel swears by them. Ordered them in bulk for Daniel too. Said it would help his energy. My chest tightened. In bulk? I asked. From where? Margaret hesitated just a beat too long. Some online distributor, she said vaguely. I don't remember the name. That's funny, I replied gently. Because Daniel's pharmacy said he stopped buying his usual ones around that time. Her smile faltered. Well, she said, adjusting her purse strap. Rachel handled all that stuff. Vitamins, meals, routines. She was very hands-on. Hands-on. I nodded slowly. That must have been expensive. Margaret sighed. You have no idea. Rachel had Daniel cover most of it at first, but then we set up a separate account. Easier that way. Less questions. I felt my heart start pounding, but I kept my face neutral. Why would supplements need a separate account? I asked. Margaret frowned. Honestly, I thought it was overkill too. Rachel said the seller didn't take standard cards. Something about overseas processing. Overseas. There it was. I see, I said quietly. Did Daniel know? Margaret waved her hand dismissively. He trusted Rachel. He trusted family. Why wouldn't he? She paused, then added too casually. Besides, it's not like anyone thought those stupid vitamins would actually hurt him. The air went dead. I stared at her. What did you just say? I asked softly. Margaret blinked. I just mean. You said hurt, I pressed. Not help. Not do nothing. You said hurt. Her face drained of color. That's not what I meant, she said quickly. You're twisting my words. Am I? I asked. Because my son is dead, Margaret. And now I'm hearing about secret accounts, overseas suppliers, and supplements that apparently could hurt him. She straightened, defensive. You're reading way too much into this. Rachel handled those things. Talk to her. I will, I said calmly. Margaret stepped back. You really should stop digging, Evelyn. It's not healthy. I met her eyes. What's not healthy, I said quietly, is pretending nothing happened. She walked away without another word. I stood there in the parking lot, my hands shaking, my mind racing. That night I made another call. A small accounting firm Daniel once mentioned, Harris & Cole Financial Services. The woman on the phone, Linda Cole, hesitated when I asked about unusual transactions. There were several recurring payments, she admitted carefully. Small amounts. Frequent. Routed through a third-party processor. For what? I asked. Supplements, she said. Health products. Not FDA registered. I closed my eyes. That's enough, I whispered. That's enough to keep going. I didn't go to Rachel to accuse her. I went to watch her lie. That's the difference between rage and strategy, and I was done being reckless. She agreed to meet me at Oakridge Cafe, the same place Daniel used to drag us on Sundays. The irony didn't go unnoticed. Rachel showed up 10 minutes late, sunglasses still on, posture stiff like she was already pissed off. What do you want, Evelyn? She asked, sitting down without greeting me. I don't have time for this. I won't waste it, I said calmly. I just have a few questions about Daniel's finances. She laughed, sharp and ugly. Seriously? You already took enough from him. Her words stung, but I didn't flinch. I spoke to Harris and Cole, I continued. They mentioned recurring payments for supplements. Overseas ones. Daniel never used those before. Her jaw tightened. That's not true, she said quickly. Daniel handled his own accounts. I stayed out of it. I leaned forward slightly. Then why did your mother say the joint account was set up for those purchases? Her eyes flickered. She misunderstood, Rachel snapped. My mom gets confused. She always has. Funny, I replied. Because the transfers came from an account with your authorization signature. She scoffed. You don't know what you're talking about. I know the amounts, I said. Small enough not to raise alarms. Frequent enough to matter. Rachel leaned back, folding her arms. Those were vitamins. Legal. Harmless. You're acting like I bought cyanide or something. The way she said it. Too fast. Too specific. I watched her carefully. Then you won't mind if I tell you what the lab found. She froze. What lab? She asked too casually. I took a breath. This was the first time I said it out loud. Before Daniel was cremated, I said, my voice steady despite the storm inside me, I asked for a tissue sample to be preserved. I needed answers. Rachel's face drained of color. I had every right, I said quietly. He was my son. I pulled a folder from my bag and slid it across the table. Unopened. The analysis was done by Dr. Aaron Blake, a toxicologist at Redwood Medical Labs. He didn't know Daniel. He didn't know us. He only saw the data. Rachel stared at the folder like it might bite her. That's insane, she whispered. You had no right. And what exactly does this so-called lab say? She demanded. I didn't open it yet. Dr. Blake said Daniel's blood showed consistent exposure to thallium compounds, I said slowly. Low doses. Over several months. Enough to weaken organs without triggering immediate alarms. Her breathing quickened. That's impossible, she said. Thallium isn't something you just stumble into. That's what Dr. Blake said too, I replied. He said it's rare, controlled, and almost always intentional. She shook her head. You're accusing me of murder. I'm accusing you of lying, I said. About the money. About the supplements. About how much control you had over Daniel's daily intake. Her voice rose. You have no proof I gave him anything. Not yet, I said. But Dr. Blake traced the compound to products sold by unregulated overseas distributors. The same type your payments went to. Silence swallowed the table. People laughed nearby. Cups clinked. Life went on. Rachel stood abruptly. This is harassment. You're obsessed. You should get help. I stayed seated. You should get a lawyer, I said calmly. Because science doesn't care about your excuses. She leaned down, her face inches from mine. You think you're smart? You think you're some kind of hero now? I met her stare. No, I said. I think I'm late. And I won't be late again. She walked out without paying. I sat there a long time after. My hands were shaking. My chest hurt. But my mind was clear. Daniel hadn't imagined it. Someone had poisoned him. And Rachel had just confirmed she was scared. I thought the truth would set things straight. Instead, it made everything dangerous. That was the moment I understood something terrifying. Rachel didn't just lie, she adapted. Science had named the poison. Money had traced the trail. But none of that mattered if the person responsible realized she was being hunted. And the worst part? She wasn't running. She was getting ready. Margaret didn't answer my first call. Or the second. By the third, my patience was gone. I drove to her place. A quiet condo complex that looked too clean for the kind of mess sitting inside it. I sat in my car for a full minute, hands gripping the steering wheel, reminding myself not to lose control. Stay calm, I told myself. You lose your temper, you lose the truth. I knocked. No answer. I knocked again, louder. Margaret, I called out. It's Evelyn. I'm not leaving. The door opened a crack. Her face looked wrecked. No makeup. Hair pulled back like she hadn't slept in days. Her eyes were red, not from crying but from panic. You shouldn't be here, she whispered. I know, I said. That's why I came. She hesitated, then opened the door fully. Inside, the place smelled like stale coffee and nerves. The TV was on, muted, some crime show flickering in the background like a bad joke. Margaret paced as soon as we sat down. This whole thing has gone too far, she said, wringing her hands. Rachel is spiraling. You're pushing her. I looked at her carefully. No. The truth is pushing her. Margaret stopped pacing. You don't know what you're dealing with, she said sharply. Rachel doesn't think like you or me. That's funny, I replied quietly. Because you're the one shaking. Her eyes filled instantly. I didn't kill him, she said, voice cracking. I swear to God, Evelyn, I didn't. I didn't say you did, I answered. But you helped. She sank onto the couch like her legs gave out. It started small, she said. Just supplements. That's what Rachel told us. She said Daniel was exhausted, run down, burning the candle at both ends. I stayed silent. She said the doctors were clueless, Margaret continued, her voice speeding up, that these products were common overseas. Natural. Safe. Then why hide them? I asked. Margaret laughed weakly. Because Rachel said people wouldn't understand. She said Americans freak out about anything unfamiliar. I leaned forward. And the money? Margaret swallowed hard. Rachel didn't want it traceable. She said it was easier if we handled the payments. She said Daniel didn't need the stress. So you paid, I said. Yes, she whispered. God help me, yes. Her shoulders started shaking. I didn't think it could hurt him, she sobbed. I thought at worst it'd do nothing. I thought I was helping my daughter protect her marriage. I felt my throat tighten, but I didn't look away. When did you realize something was wrong? I asked. Margaret wiped her face roughly. When he started losing weight. When his hands shook. When Rachel told me to stop asking questions. I paused. What exactly did she say? Margaret looked up at me, terrified. She said, if you love me, you'll trust me. And if you ever say a word, I'll swear you were the one who suggested it. The room went dead quiet. That's when you knew, I said softly. Margaret nodded. I knew. And I stayed quiet anyway. She broke down then, full-on gasping sobs. I'm a coward, she cried. I chose my daughter over a dying man. I stood slowly. You chose fear, I said. And fear has a body count. She looked up at me, desperate. What do you want from me? I met her eyes, my voice steady as stone. The truth, I said. All of it. And when the time comes, you will say it out loud. Margaret nodded frantically. I will. I swear. I can't carry this anymore. I grabbed my bag. Good, I said. Because this isn't over. And Rachel doesn't know you're cracking. As I reached the door, Margaret called out, "Evelyn." I turned. "I loved him too," she said weakly. "In my own way." I held her gaze. "Then prove it," I said. "Before it's too late." That was the moment Margaret broke, but it wasn't the moment the truth came out. It was the moment I realized someone was still lying. I didn't notice it all at once. That's how it starts, quiet enough that you doubt yourself. I was coming back from the grocery store, arms full, annoyed at myself for forgetting coffee again. I unlocked my front door, stepped inside and froze. The air felt off. Not wrong. Just disturbed. Like someone had walked through and tried too hard to leave things exactly the same. I stood there, heart thudding. "Get a grip, Evelyn," I muttered. "You're tired." I set the bags down slowly and looked around my living room. Everything was where it should be. Too perfectly. I walked to the hallway and stopped. The photo frame on the console table, Daniel at 25, grinning like the world owed him something, was angled slightly. Just a few degrees off. I knew that frame. I'd straightened it every damn day since he died. My throat went dry. "No," I whispered. "No, no, no." I checked the bedroom. The closet door was closed. I never closed it. I stood there listening. The house hummed quietly, innocent as hell. I reached for my phone, hesitated, then lowered it. Calling someone now would just make me look paranoid. Instead, I did something Daniel taught me years ago. I checked the small things. The laptop on my desk. The lid had a faint smudge near the corner. Not mine. The drawer where I kept the lab folder was shut. But not all the way. My hands started shaking. "They were careful," I whispered. "Too careful." That night I sat in the dark, lights off, watching the street through the crack in the curtains. Around 11:40 p.m., a dark sedan rolled past. Slow. Too slow. It stopped half a block down. The engine stayed on. I felt my pulse in my ears. "Don't freak out," I told myself. "Just watch." 10 minutes passed. Then 15. The car didn't move. I snapped a picture with my phone. The headlights flashed once. The car drove off. I sat back, chest tight. "All right," I said quietly. "So that's how you want to play this." The next morning I went to the bank. I didn't touch the locker. I didn't bring the letter. I acted normal. On the way out, I caught my reflection in the glass doors. I looked older than I felt. Smaller. But my eyes? They were sharp. At home the phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. "Hello." Silence. Then breathing. My grip tightened. "If you're trying to scare me," I said calmly, "you're gonna have to try harder." The line clicked dead. I sat there for a long moment staring at the phone. Then I laughed, low, bitter. "So," I said aloud, "you're watching me now." I walked to the window and pulled the curtains wide open. Stood there. Visible. Unafraid. "Here's the thing," I said, voice steady. "You already messed up." I picked up Daniel's photo and held it close. "Because now I know," I whispered. "And once a mother knows, she doesn't stop." That night I packed a small bag. I moved the evidence. I changed my routine. And for the first time since Daniel died, I wasn't just grieving. I was ready. I didn't know who it was, but I knew one thing. They knew I was getting close. I didn't sleep that night. Not because I was scared, but because my mind wouldn't shut the hell up. They were watching me, which meant they were waiting for a mistake. So I decided to give them one. The next morning I moved slow. On purpose. I let my neighbor, Mrs. Alvarez, see me struggling with groceries. I let her walk me inside, let her fuss, let her talk. "I'm not myself these days," I told her, loud enough for the open window to carry. "I keep losing things. My memory's shot." She squeezed my hand. "Honey, anyone would be a mess after losing a son like that." Exactly. Later I went to Bean and Barrel Cafe, sat by the window, and made sure my notebook was visible. I flipped through pages, sighed dramatically, and muttered to myself like I didn't care who heard. I swear, Daniel, I whispered, shaking my head. I don't even know what matters anymore. I wrote something big and obvious on the page. Bank records, copy at home. Was it true? Hell no. But lies only work if they look sloppy. That afternoon I made a phone call I knew wasn't private. I think I left the folder in the bedroom drawer, I said, pacing my living room. Yeah, the one with the lab paperwork. I'll deal with it tomorrow. I'm exhausted. I hung up and stood very still. The house felt quiet again. Too quiet. That night, I did something that hurt more than I expected. I took Daniel's letter, the real one, and locked it away somewhere no one would ever look. Then I made a fake folder. Old bank statements. Harmless lab printouts. Nothing that could hang anyone. I left it right where someone careless would. Top drawer. Slightly open. I sat on the couch, lights off, coat still on, waiting. You want it? I whispered into the dark. Come get it. At 2:13 a.m. my phone buzzed. Unknown number. Just one word. Careful. I smiled for the first time in weeks. So you took the bait, I said softly. Good. The next morning the drawer was closed. Too closed. I opened it slowly. The fake folder was gone. I sat down, heart pounding. Not from fear but from confirmation. They didn't take everything, I murmured. They took what they thought mattered. I walked to the window and pulled the curtain back an inch. A familiar dark sedan sat across the street. Engine off. Watching. I raised my coffee mug in a small, deliberate toast. You just told me exactly how scared you are, I said quietly. And you didn't even realize it. I picked up my phone and typed a message to myself. A timestamp note. Evidence accessed. Bait confirmed. Then I looked at Daniel's photo and let the tears come. Not loud, not messy, just enough to remind myself why I was doing this. I'm still your mom, I whispered. And I'm not done. I didn't chase them. I gave them something they couldn't ignore. And the moment they reached for it, I knew exactly who I was dealing with. I knew the second I walked in. The house smelled wrong, clean, but not my kind of clean. I went straight to the desk. The drawer was open. The folder was gone. I sat down slowly, breath catching in my chest. Even when you expect it, it still hurts. They think they won, I whispered. My phone rang. Margaret. I answered. Evelyn, she said too fast. Are you okay? Someone took the documents, I replied calmly. The ones about Daniel's illness. Silence. Then barely audible, she breathed. Oh God. I smiled without humor. That reaction, I said, tells me everything. I hung up and walked to the hallway clock. Reached behind it. The flash drive was still there. Safe. They'd taken paper. Not proof. Outside, a dark sedan rolled away. I watched it go. Enjoy the moment, I murmured. You just showed your hand. The evidence didn't disappear by accident. Someone knew exactly what to take. And that's when I realized this wasn't about hiding the truth. It was about stopping me. I chose the place on purpose. Daniel's house. The same living room where Rachel once told me, "This is my house now. Don't come back." Funny how life flips the script. Rachel walked in late, sunglasses still on even though it was evening. She stopped when she saw me sitting there calmly, hands folded, like I'd been waiting my whole life for this moment. She laughed nervously. "So what's this about, Evelyn? You sounded all dramatic on the phone." I looked up at her slowly. "Sit down, Rachel," I said. "We need to talk like adults. No lies this time." She rolled her eyes but sat, crossing her legs like she still owned the room. "If this is about the will again, I'm done having that argument. You already took enough from me." "I know you took the documents," I said, calm as Sunday morning. "And I know you think you got away with it." She laughed, but it sounded forced. "You're losing it. Grief does that to people." "Maybe," I said. "Or maybe I finally stopped playing defense." There was a pause. I could hear her breathing. That's when I pressed the remote. The TV lit up. Daniel's face filled the screen. Not sick. Not weak. Clear-eyed. Calm. Terrified. Rachel's smile vanished. On the screen Daniel spoke. If you're watching this, Mom, then I didn't make it. I don't know who's poisoning me yet. But I know it's happening. And I know it's coming from inside my own house. Rachel shot up from the couch. This is fake, she shouted. This is some messed up AI crap. Sit down. My voice cracked, but it didn't shake. The video continued. Daniel explained the supplements, the slow poisoning, the lab results, the money trail. Rachel's breathing went ragged. I stood. You looked me in the eyes at my son's funeral, I said, my voice breaking. And you didn't shed a single tear. Not one. I thought you were strong. Turns out you were just cold. She screamed. You don't know anything. You're just a bitter old woman who couldn't let go of her son. I stepped closer. I let him go the day they zipped his body bag, I said softly. What I won't let go of is the truth. Sirens wailed outside. Rachel froze. Her voice dropped to a whisper. You wouldn't. I didn't have to, I replied. I already did. The police entered. Rachel collapsed onto the couch, her tough girl mask finally cracking. As they took her away, she looked back at me, eyes full of panic. You think this brings him back? She cried. I felt the tears fall then, hot, unstoppable. No, I said. But it lets him rest. The door closed. Silence filled the house. I sat back down, exhausted, heart shattered but spine straight. I couldn't save my son, I whispered. But I made damn sure his story didn't die with him. The house was quiet again. Too quiet. I sat in Daniel's old chair, the one he used to joke about. Mom, this thing is older than both of us. I ran my hand over the armrest like I could still feel his warmth there. My lawyer told me what Rachel finally confessed. She never loved my son. She married him for his house. His money, his future. And when Daniel started getting weak, when he started asking questions, she got scared. So she didn't stop it. She waited. And that's what still haunts me. The case was over. The truth was out. And still my heart felt heavy as hell. I took out the old photo album and opened it to the first page. Daniel as a kid. Missing tooth. Big grin. Holding my finger like I was the whole world. I tried, baby. I whispered, my voice shaking. I swear I did. Tears slipped down my face, slow and quiet this time. Not the kind that screams. The kind that stays. People think revenge brings peace. Doesn't. Justice does. I stood up and walked to the window. The sun was setting, painting the sky orange and gold, like it was saying goodbye properly. They hurt you because you trusted them, I said softly. That wasn't your weakness. That was your heart. I placed the album back on the table and straightened my shoulders. They thought I was just an old woman, I said with a faint smile. They forgot who raised you. I turned off the light and headed toward the door. For the first time since you left, I whispered, I can finally breathe. And in the silence that followed, it felt, just for a second, like he was listening. If there's one thing I need you to hear, it's this: don't make my mistake. Don't ignore the quiet signs. Don't assume I'm fine means fine. I lost my son because I waited. And I'll carry that forever. If my story keeps even one family from that kind of loss, then stay with me. Subscribe and listen before it's too late.